Hello everybody, this is General Yanis, and today in General Yanis Tactics we'll be looking at the Thousand Suns. Again, we'll look at the Scarab Occult Terminators and looking at how a max buffed, let's say 10-man, the maximum squad of Terminator first versus compared to smaller 5-man Terminator units. So with no further ado, let's get started. So today, last day before New Year's Eve, looking interesting for 2022. The Tau, the Tau seem to be gonna be getting some crazy rules in the new year. The rules for the railgun were shown from the Wikipedia. So crazy 6 plus D3 damage weapon with inbuilt reroll to hit, and also dealing 3 mortal wounds when it wounds. So it's really a big threat to any vehicle, and ignoring invul save. So it will be a very big threat to any vehicle or big target like Mortarion or Magnus the Red. So it's really difficult to see this let's say Tau shooting lines with these powerful weapons. But let's of course wait and see all the rules, and I'll be happy to do the math when we have more rules for the Tau. But as I said, in this video, we're looking at the Scarab Occult Terminators. A full 10-man squad, maximum buffed with Thousand Suns, can buff their Terminators really a lot. How much can it do? What is the maximum damage it can do? How much can it be buffed durability wise? Comparing to the minimum units, let's say two times 5-man instead of 10-man unit. Then some uses and final thoughts on the 10-man max buffed squad. Before I start, yeah, it's been a long Christmas period now, and the schools are closed here, and COVID restrictions has been difficult to make new videos. But I hope in 2022 we'll be back on track, and hopefully restrictions will be lifting. Before I start, a big thanks to all my patrons for your continuous support, all the supporters in YouTube, and your comments and likes and good reference in the Facebook groups, etc. Really looking forward to another year doing video reviews for and discussing with you guys. So let's start on the Scarab Occult Terminators. So the Scarab Occult Terminators, of course, is a very solid unit, practically must-have for Thousand Suns armies. They are durable, they have objective secure, they have good damage output, and furthermore, the Thousand Suns have a lot of psychic powers, stratagems, and abilities that can further buff a unit for both damage and durability. So if we consider the maximum 10-man squad with double weapons, etc., how much damage could it do, and how much can we buff the durability if we have a maximum unit? So if we assume max the weapons configuration, the baseline is 430 points, a 10-man with a sorcerer with a force stave and a combi bolter, then 7 of the guys have combi bolters, and then we have 2 soul reaper cannons, and we give them also the hellfire missiles. That's where we get the 430 points maximum. So looking at what buffs we can give to the Scarab Occult Terminators and many other Thousand Suns units, basically, but the Scarab Occult Terminators, they have a high damage baseline output. Basically, we have on the damage side, of course, they can get reroll ones to hit. They are a core unit, and they can benefit from this aura. Multiple units can benefit from this buff, so it's not specific, let's say, to a 10-man unit. We don't get more or less of, let's say, the benefit of this reroll. And then we have the presage psychic power giving +1 to hit, and then this of course will benefit a big unit more. Then you have a lot of shots that are 2+ to hit with reroll ones, meaning basically I think it's more than 97 something 98% chances to score hits. Of course, this benefits the presage can only be used once, and therefore it benefits more if we have a 10-man unit. Then we have the Infernal Fusillade strat for 1 command point, giving 1 more attack with bolters. Each combi bolter will be firing 5 shots instead of 4, and this of course benefits more when we have, for the same command point, we get much more shots in a big squad rather than a smaller squad. Then we have the Wrath of the Wrong, 2 command points, a bit expensive stratagem, but giving +1 to wound in shoot or fight phase. And this, of course, can really help the Terminators do a lot of wounds, even to high toughness, strong targets, toughness 8, etc. But of course, it's expensive, so of course you have to think about when it's important to use it. The Soul Reaper stratagem for 1 command points allows 10 shots with a Soul Reaper versus a horde enemy with more than 11 models. So it's a bit situational. But if you face something like Rax and Thick City and they have a big unit of Rax, then it could be interesting to use this stratagem. Then it will be, of course, benefiting 2 Soul Reapers instead of 1, using it on a small squad. And then for range damage, very strong for the Infernal Master to do an Infernal Pact. The Maelstrom giving +1 strength to the shooting, making the combi bolters, let's say strength 5. The Soul Reaper strength 7, so can also do a lot of wounds on vehicles, etc. And adding +1 to wound will be wounding, let's say, Death Card toughness 5 or toughness 5 enemies with the bolters will be wounding on 3 pluses, for example, instead of without the buffs here, maybe only wounding on 5 pluses. Then, of course, the relic, the Egligan's Orrery. It's an aura from the relic bearer that core units, they ignore all their modifiers shooting at 1 unit, and also taking out, let's say, the -1 damage that some units have. This, of course, can also, it doesn't matter if it's a big unit or a small unit, if they are close to the relic bearer, they all get the benefit. If we look at the durability buffs, the Weaver of Fates gives a unit a 4+ invul for 1 turn. The Terminators have a 5+ invul, and of course a 4+ invul for a big unit will benefit, let's say, more than a small unit. Of course, if you put the 4+ invul on a big unit, maybe the enemy will target another unit, but then it has helped the durability and survivability of a unit you think it's important to keep alive. Glamour of Tzeentch, again, psychic power -1 to be hit, of course, always helping. And this, of course, benefits the big unit. And then we have the Unwavering Phalanx stratagem. It's -1 to incoming damage. This can really help because if we can bring weapons down to damage 1, we also get improved save, basically giving them a 1+ save, ignoring a lot of the AP, let's say. But it costs 3 command points for a big squad, while it only costs 1 command point for a smaller squad. So the Phalanx stratagem doesn't really benefit the big squad so much because you're paying quite a lot, a hefty price to use it on a big squad. Where the big squad is helped a lot is with the Legion command. If we upgrade the Scarab Occult, the Sorcerer with the Rites of Coalescence for 15 points in the command phase, 1 model regains all lost wounds. So then it's ready. Let's say this is really important for a big squad, removing maybe the wounds of a wounded model and allowing for resurrections and better revives. We also have the temporal manipulation to add more healing to the big squad. And then if we have the Cult of Time with the Time Flux Warp 6, we can bring a dead model back. And if we have the warp regeneration stratagem for 1 CP, if the psychic test that is cast is more than a 9, you either heal D3 wounds or you bring a dead model back. So this is really strong, and this has a very good synergy with the healing all lost wounds. So then we are sure that in our psychic phase we can bring a dead model back if we hit a 9, and then with the psychic test of 9+, and this we can there are some tricks to use the Kabbalistic rituals to autocast on a 9 and use the Stride for a revive when you really need it. So with the Cult of Time and this warped regeneration, you could be able to bring 2 dead models back in a big squad, and makes it really survivable. Looking now at the damage output of adding all the buffs, not point corrected here, we see what the 10-man squad can do with all the buffs I listed before. And here we can see we have the range damage is the blue, and the orange damage is in melee. So we see here a really high number of wounds, 20, 25, 30 wounds on average, depending on the targets for range damage. This is now fully buffed with +1 to wound, re-rolling once, hitting on 2 pluses, with a high strength and more bolter shots. We see something like a Imperial Knight. We can make 20 wounds on an Imperial Knight from this squad with the missiles and the Soul Reaper cannon and the bolters. We see something like intercessors. We can basically make 30 wounds on intercessors. Even for Death Guard here, we haven't even applied the Orrery Relic, taking out the discussing resilience. We can do a lot of wounds on Death Guard Terminators with the +1 to wound and the high strength of the weapons and the good AP, forcing Death Guard to take invul saves here. Even Mortarion, who's quite well protected, can take quite significant damage. And overall, we can do very high damage from this squad buffed. So some damage highlights for the 10-man buffed squad, for example, more than 15 wounds on Death Shroud and Blightlord Terminators, so it could wipe out a big squad of Terminators. The Dread Knight is also a very powerful unit from the Great Knight arsenal. We should be able to do 10 ranged wounds and 10 melee wounds, assuming that if the Dread Knight is protected by the Tithe of Shadows, basically having a +1 save. This is really strong, giving a very strong 13 wound model, a cover save, let's say. As I said, 20 wounds to Imperial Knight with a ranged damage, so quite a lot. Yeah, a big squad can really dish out a lot of ranged damage. Mortarion, 9 wounds ranged expected and 10 in melee using the Orrery Relic on Mortarion. And as I said, also for something like a Horde, even something with -1 to incoming damage, feel no pains, etc., we should be able to wipe out very big squads of racks that are buffed, etc. Here we can also utilize the Soul Reaper strat to get multiple shots with the Soul Reaper. So the damage increase of buffs and the comparison to the small units. Let's start with just the 10-man unit, and then we see this 10-man with the 2 Soul Reaper cannons and the two missile launchers. The damage on average they are doing against the General Yanis 31 targets is 11 wounds on average. If we add reroll ones to hit, this gives around 2 wounds more. If we have +1 to hit instead of reroll ones to hit, here we see all the buffs individually. We get, let's say, almost three wounds more compared to the unbuffed. The plus strength brings it up to 13 wounds. The extra bolter shots also help around 13 wounds, and then the Wrath 2 command point stratagem +1 to wound gives also 3 wounds more. Of course, when we add them together, they are multiplying, they are adding the benefits together. If we apply them all, we will be getting 27 wounds on average instead of the 11 unbuffed wounds on average. So this is, let's say, 15-16 wounds more applying all the buffs together, and this is where the strength of the big unit comes, because you maximize the effect of, for example, this stratagem and the extra bolter shots and the plus strength for everything. In melee, we also have a good improvement, but not so much as the range, because the plus, for example, strength from Infernal Master doesn't really help, or the extra bolter shots. We still can get a significant damage output, almost doubling the damage in melee from 11-12 wounds on average to 22-23 wounds on average for the fully buffed squad. +1 to wound, +1 to hit, and reroll ones to hit with the Koppesh swords can really make a lot of melee damage as well. So we get a very dangerous unit for both melee and ranged that we can apply these buffs to. And here in this table, I'm comparing, let's say, the scenario where we have a 10-man fully buffed unit compared to if we have brought, let's say, 2 5-man units, so basically the same point cost, and one of the 5-man squad gets all the buffs here, but the other one, of course, cannot get the same buffs, but it can still get reroll ones. So we see here on range damage, this combination of the 2 5-man squads would be doing 20 wounds on average, with one squad fully buffed and the other one not so buffed. So the 10-man buff squad can do much more because all the models benefit from the buffs, of course. In melee also we'll be doing 4 wounds more. Here we'll be doing 7 wounds more instead of this combo, where the smaller squad have the advantages, of course, on the psychic powers. Then we'll be able, let's say, to cast 2 smites here instead of only 1. So of course we will be losing a bit the psychic power, and we will also losing the cabal, some of the cabal points, of course. We get more cabal points with the smaller units. If we look at the durability, the buff durability, here we see the standard type of weapons. I mean, analyzing durability for how many shots or attacks does it take from these weapons to kill one Terminator. So here we have the unbuffed Terminator. It takes the Terminator have a good baseline durability, especially versus damage 1 weapons. The anti-infantry weapons, they can take quite heavy amount of shots before being killed. Of course, for heavy weaponry and high damage weaponry, they can't take as much, of course. But if we buff the Occult Terminators with a Phalanx, giving them -1 to incoming damage, and we give them the 4+ Invul, of course we get a better saves, especially for damage 2 weapons. Then we can basically bring down the damage to only being damage 1, and then we also improve the save. So the Phalanx, of course, is very strong, but it costs 3 CP for the big, let's say, for the big units. For the heavy weaponry, the 4+ Invul is helping. Still, the models are more, of course, vulnerable to entropy cannons, etc. If we also add the glamour of tzeentch, we are also improving. Basically, we're improving 33% the number of shots that models can take. And here you see the extra durability for the max buffed compared to the unbuffed Terminator. We see for something like bolters and something, the buffs don't help, because basically the Terminators have a very high durability of those, saving on 2+, etc. So the glamour of tzeentch, of course, helps. The most improvement of durability is for damage 2 weapons when we add the Phalanx and the glamour of tzeentch. So we get something like 2-3 times more durable versus blight launchers and heavy bolters. And for the heavy weaponry, the 4+ Invul and the glamour of tzeentch helps us most. So as I said, the glamour of tzeentch increases durability by 33%. The unwavering Phalanx is really good for versus damage 2 weapons, but is very expensive for the 10-man Terminator squad. Then it's better to have, let's say, the small units. The 4+ Invul mainly helps versus heavy weaponry, but the big advantage for the durability for the big squad of Terminators is that with a very big squad of Terminators, we can make almost sure that the enemy cannot wipe out the whole squad in one round. And then we have the possibility in our turn to apply the heals and the resurrections, making it very difficult to remove a big squad of Terminators, while maybe with a big investment the enemy could take out a 5-man squad. It will be very difficult to wipe out a 10-man squad before we have time to heal and resurrect. So the uses, I think it's probably a good idea, looking at the very high damage output and the survivability of the big squad, to include 1 big brick of Scarab Terminators with the rights of coalescence in the army. Of course, investing 450 points or 450 points on a big squad, it takes a big chunk of your army. And of course, then it's really important that you make it count. You can't just keep it hidden on a corner. So you need to put it in a strategic location to make those points count. Take out enemy units, keep some very important objectives or area of the map. Make the opponent it's not so easy for the opponent to ignore them, because the damage they could do, as you could see on buff, they could take out an Imperial Knight, for example. Because they can do so much damage, and they have objective secure, and they are very difficult to shift with revives. So we potentially reviving 2 of these very strong models each turn. If you have the Cult of Time, putting it on a heavy objective leave it there and make the points count using the other, let's say, smaller squad of Terminators to do other jobs on the battlefield. So in my collection I have 20 Terminators, so probably I think I'll go for the one big blob and then two, let's say two 5-mans, also bringing 20 Terminators to the fight. So summary and final thoughts. The maxed squad of Scarab Occult Terminators is a very strong threat and a very strong unit that can be buffed significantly to deal very high damage to a large variety of targets. They can wipe out hordes, they can shoot and damage very high value targets. Of course, for the damage output, a lot of these +1 to hit, etc., they are more efficient when we apply it on this big unit instead of smaller units. For the durability, we can also get some good increases and durability for a big man squad. However, the unwavering phalanx strat that is really strong is costing significantly more for the big unit rather than the small units. So the major advantage from the survivability of the big squad compared to the smaller squads is that we can make sure that they don't die so easily in one round, and then we have the time for the heals and the revives to make a count and keep something. They have objective secure and very difficult to shift. And so I think the big block of the Scarab Occult Terminators can be a very potent threat on the tabletop, and that the opponent is forced somehow to deal with, and very difficult to ignore, because if he ignores it, they will be punishing his army significantly with all the buffs possible. So looking forward, hopefully in 2022, to be able to play again. Now a lot of the restrictions here in Denmark, a lot of the places we typically play are closed until January. Let's see what will happen, and yeah, so it will be interesting to test this big squad on the tabletop. So this concludes the video. What do you think about this analysis? And let me know your experience with a big squad of Terminators. Anything else you look forward to in 2022? I think in my next video I will be looking at the stratagems for Death Guard. Let me know in the comments if you have some suggestions for videos. If you like this video, please press like and subscribe to the channel, where I'll be bringing you a lot of Warhammer math hammering, Death Guard tactics, Thousand Sun tactics, and really appreciate your support. So with these words, General Yanis is signing out. Stay safe out there and see you in 2022. Bye bye.